I was waking up and getting through school. And I do a little bit of assignments so I wouldn't fail.
Yeah, I think mainly kind of math was my struggle. I failed college algebra 4 times.
So I remember like closing the book and then failing the rest of middle school and high school.
Society places a pretty high premium on intelligence, which is generally seen as a fairly concrete trait. You're either smart or you're not, and educators have a slew of standardized tests to prove it. So what about a musical genius who does poorly with spelling, or a brilliant linguist who has a hard time with fractions? This is where Dr. Howard Gardner was going when he developed the theory of multiple intelligences. The theory claims that there are 8 different kinds of intelligence that reflect different ways of interacting with the world, and each person has a unique blend of these intelligences. First is logical mathematical intelligence, which is probably what you think of when you think of intellectual intelligence. This would consist of things like logic, critical thinking, and test-taking aptitude. The second type of intelligence is verbal linguistic. If you have high verbal linguistic intelligence, you're probably good at saying that word. You're good at poems, rhyming, writing, reading, and learning other languages. You're also probably pretty good at taking an ordinary story and making it extraordinary. The third type is interpersonal intelligence. Being intelligent in this way means you might be good at interpreting other people's emotions and understanding social etiquette and norms. If you're a natural leader and manager of people, you're probably pretty intelligent in the interpersonal field.
So I teach for the Recreation and Tourism Department. I teach a backpacking class, so an intro to backpacking. We really try to teach like transferable skills, so skills that they can learn, which is a lot of it might just be like learning how to talk in front of a group. Our students have to stand up and teach in front of a group of about 30 people every week. 1 or 2 people have to. So they're learning skills to stand up and talk, which I think is something that we're losing these days with cell phones and emails.
The fourth is body kinesthetic, which means you are good at handling and maneuvering your own body. People who are intelligent in this field include dancers, actors, soldiers, and athletes, just to name a few. The fifth type of intelligence is musical. This is associated with rhythmic and harmonic music, being able to interpret sounds, rhythms, tones, and pitches, and being able to understand them on a level above most people.
I naturally can hear things that other people can't, the way that people can naturally run faster or jump faster than I can, you know what I mean?
The sixth type is visual spatial, and this refers to how well you can visualize something in your mind's eye, or how well you can get through a maze or measure distances. The seventh type is called intrapersonal intelligence. Intrapersonal intelligence is more about how to understand yourself, your strengths, and your weaknesses.
What do? I pray a lot. I'm very religious. Not religious, I guess, but spiritual. I don't know what the difference is particularly. A lot of times I pray and meditate and ask a higher power what I should be doing. And oftentimes that's connecting with people as much as possible. So the way that expresses itself is that I'm teaching at 3 different programs right now, theater.
The eighth type is called naturalistic intelligence. This intelligence has to do with recognizing things in the real world. This intelligence deals with flowers, trees, and pretty much anything else that's living. An example of someone who is intelligent in this way would be, for instance, a biological scientist.
We have schools because we hope that someday when children have left schools that they will still be able to use what it is that they've learned. And there is now a massive amount of evidence from all realms of science that unless individuals take a very active role in what it is that they're studying, unless they learn to ask questions, to do things hands-on, to essentially recreate things in their own mind and then transform them as is needed, the ideas just disappear. The student may have a good grade on the exam, we may think that he or she is learning, but a year or 2 later, there's nothing left.
We esteem the highly articulate or logical people of our society, but what about all the other types of intelligence?
There's pictures of me at like 1 strumming my dad's guitar and stuff. Like it just was something always around me, so I was very curious about it naturally. It wasn't like ever like forced upon me or anything like that. Like 3 years old, I was like sitting down at the piano and like playing with my dad, and like he could tell that I was like following the music, like with my ear and stuff. And then by like 4, I was in actual piano lessons where I was like reading music and playing with both my hands, so.
When I was in elementary school, I got straight A's. I got straight A's probably through the middle of middle school. And I had gone to a school that I was very comfortable in. It was a private school. And I remember the moment being in middle school where it's like I had entered a public school. It was a different environment, different friends. And I remember looking around and nobody was following along. Nobody really cared about the material, which wasn't a tragedy to me, but I remember thinking, like, why am I working so hard when nobody in this class particularly cares about what we're doing?
I did really well all through elementary school, all that stuff. Middle school was fine, and then high school came, and I joined a band in the 9th grade and then just cared about that way too much, and school not at all. So like 9th grade, I had like a 3.5 or 3.8 or something like that, just because it was like still really easy for me. And then by 10th grade, like I started to struggle a little more when classes got like, you had to do more homework, all this crap. I couldn't just like, can I say bullshit? I couldn't just bullshit my way through everything, so it was different. But I still didn't care at all because I was played like 100 shows with my band, maybe like 200 throughout my whole high school career, so I really had no focus in school.
Nothing academically stood out. I was, when I knew I was good at pole vaulting, then that's where I spent most of my time. I went to one high school, but I trained at another high school, so I spent most of my time focusing on that, trying to reach the goal of becoming state champion, and the academics were just sort of there.
Going into high school, you could hardly say I went to high school because I ditched a lot. I would spend time with friends, but also learning a lot about myself. So ditching, taking the bus out to different places and thinking a lot. In school particularly, I was pretty bored, and I would get in arguments with teachers a lot. I was very antagonistic. I loved drama, so I would ditch to do play production and to, hang out with my older friends and stuff like that.
And then once I saw like, oh, it's the formula, you just, study for X amount and then you do well, I just thought it was like a joke in a game. And it didn't like amount to smartness or intelligence, in my opinion. It was just, can you play the game that everyone else in this frickin' country, state is doing? And I don't know, it just never resonated with me like it was gonna make me the person I wanted to be,
I think I just realized that there was such a disassociation between what we as students were interested in and what the school as an institution was providing us with. There was such a large disassociation there.
I think you can force someone to fake chemistry and they can get a C, but like with music, like you either have rhythm or not. Like some people will never be able to just like hit their hand in time, Some people can't hit a note. So that doesn't mean that they can't learn, but I think we don't value learning it at all as a society.
Today, I am a teacher in many capacities. I teach theater. And what's very important for me is trying to figure out, where are you in your life? What music do you listen to? What stresses you out? What are you excited about? What annoys you? I act as much as possible. I love doing Shakespeare. I direct. I'm a filmmaker, just like you all. I write a lot of poetry, read as much as I can, and yeah, it seems a little scatterbrained, but I am a little scatterbrained.
Well, I wouldn't put myself on like Albert Einstein's level, but even today, I think the way we classify intelligence is when we're having these conversations with people who have degrees and I have this degree and I have this degree, or I'm doing research in that. That will still weigh on me if I'm in a room with people that are talking a different language pretty much than my language. But I still find myself intelligent in what I do and how I do it, and the results that I get from what I do, whether it's working with students or, you know, teaching the class that I teach. So.
Unless you're a really successful musician, people will write you off because, you know, there's so many high-paying jobs with degrees, you know what I mean? Like a surgeon. Obviously, oh, that guy's super intelligent.
If we all had exactly the same kind of mind and there was only one kind of intelligence, then we could teach everybody the same thing in the same way and assess them in the same way, and that would be fair. But once we realize that people have very different kinds of minds, different kinds of strengths, then an education which treats everybody the same way is actually the most unfair education, because it picks out one kind of mind, which I call the law professor mind, somebody who's very linguistic and logical, and says, if you think like that, great. If you don't think like that, there's no room in the train for you.